I think it's just important to share. You know, like when something works for you in your life, especially like for me during COVID, I really went deep into mindfulness, and one of the first things I did was talk to experts that I knew on what works for them, then try it for myself to see if it works for me, and whatever worked for me, I wanted to share it. And whenever I shared it, I learned it twice. So you learn it more. The more you share it, the more you learn the things that work for you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the talk today, which is around prioritizing mental wellness in music. My name is Sofia. I'm a sales and marketing director at Neura. I'm also studying psychology, so it's a subject very close to my heart. I'll let the panelists all introduce themselves, and then the idea of today is to have a conversation around this topic. If you do have questions, if you just keep them till the end, we will give you a good 15 minutes to ask. So would you like to start?
Okay, sure. Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm waiting for an answer. My name is Hala Dhakil. I am Saudi. And I am a fitness trainer, sports nutritionist, and I have a fitness studio with my partner over there called Pulse Studios KSA in Jeddah. And that's pretty much it. I'm very excited to be here today, and I hope that this talk is really gonna resonate with everyone here today. That's it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nadia Muijrers. I'm Bahraini Dutch, based in Bahrain. I'm very disconnected from the musical industry, but I'm here because I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and I also work as a consultant, largely in areas of people and innovation in the workplace.
Hi, I'm Nick, aka Afrojack, a DJ producer, and I'm very excited to talk today about the very sensitive subject of mental health around the world, not just within our industry, but everywhere. So I'm happy to be here. Yay.
Hi, I'm Aoki. I'm from United States, Las Vegas, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm a DJ. I don't know.
Yeah, can we slightly lower the mics? They're loud. I have to talk really quietly. Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you all today, what does mental wellness mean to you all? It's such a buzzword these days. There's a lot more attention around it than there's ever been before. So yeah, starting with yourself, like.
Am I going to be the one starting today?
Yes, I'm going to keep going this way.
It's quite tricky. I mean, it really has to do with, or actually it's more of accepting yourself no matter what, understanding and knowing that every day we have the chance to live, to experience whatever experience we get to experience in life. So every day is a chance to grow, whether through a negative or a positive experience, and it's always to the better. So I think it's very important that people don't let such negativity, because it's always the negativity that can get to our heads and take away from what you're able to give, And I'm sure every single person in this room has something so special about them and can offer something so beautiful to this world. And so it's very important to just believe in yourself and trust the process, no matter where you are, when, especially at times like this, during COVID, where things are always up and down and you're always hearing all these negative news. So that's pretty much what I would like to add to that.
Thank you. Yes.
So the topic focuses on mental health or mental wellness, but really it's everything because it's interconnected. So for me, and I've experienced this myself, if you don't take good care of your body, your mind, your emotions, it all affects each other. And so sometimes that means managing stress, be it professionally or even in one's personal life, and that plays out in many ways. So that's a big one. Being happy, meeting. One thing that's always sort of so I have my own organization as an entrepreneur. One thing that always sort of haunts me as a personal worry is, am I going to reach my full potential? And just managing those thoughts and those anxieties and whatnot is a big part of that. But to help manage those thoughts and emotions, it's a full piece, and you can speak to the physical fitness more. But they all, it's an interplay between those and staying generally well and happy and fulfilled. Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it's a very sensitive subject, mental health. Of course, we're all very aware of the term mental health, but I think there's a gigantic problem with the definition of mental health, because we all talk about it and you all see the inspiring quotes on Instagram, and then you're supposed to figure it out. This is actually not the case. I've been reading many books since I'm 15 about psychology, subconscious psychology, sociology, philosophy, to figure out how my own subconscious works, how my own emotions work, how other people's emotions work, how other people's brains work. Not just what they say they think, but what they actually think. And what I started noticing was when I actually started gaining the knowledge of how my brain operates, I've been able to change my own mental health, going from I don't get it to I get it and I can actually do something about it. So what I think right now is the situation with all the mental health promotion, which is good, should really be backed up not just with the quotes, but also the knowledge. People need the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, then you can actually do something. And I hope today here we can share some of our own experience and how we fixed it for ourselves to see the better part of life, to see the positivity, to see the potential of life, which is very difficult sometimes, especially if you don't have the knowledge how to define it. Like, you need the language. So that's my vision on the definition of mental health.
Yeah, I think it's like it's like going to a mental repair shop, or like a tune-up. And it's just a different, I think for the most part, it's easy to fix a car. Like you have an oil checkup, so you go get that tuned up. It's so much easier to fix other things than yourself. And I think a lot of the times, the brain is complicated. It's complex. So you don't even know where to start. And I think that's why this conversation is important. And it's confusing, and that's why there's a lot of unanswered questions in psychology and how it all works. And the only way to get through is if you would just conversate and dialogue. And the most important thing that I've realized is that people, when they feel lost or they feel in a really dark place, they feel alone. That's probably the worst feeling, is to feel alone with your thoughts and go, I'm the only person that is in this place. And the reality is that millions of other people feel the same way, alone in a corner in darkness. And that's why these conversations shed light in those areas. So you don't do desperate things or make decisions that you'd only make in that place. And we've all experienced different levels of what that feels like. Some I've experienced a lot, definitely far worse than I have experienced. And I think that's why it's just important to, think of yourself like the same way you think about other things that you do in your life. And at the end of the day, we always want to live an optimal life. We always want to live a life that we can do the most that we can. And, with this kind of information, just like what Nick is saying, education is such an important part of that. Like, what can we do to do something better, more optimal, more creative, or just maintain? It's maintenance at the end of the day.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point that we all do think we're experiencing it ourselves. And as soon as you start talking about it, others are like, me too, and me too. Feels like we are all facing this, but what can we do to sort of help talk about it more, give each other the words to describe our anxieties, be able to articulate what we're feeling, then also who's responsible to give us the tools to then deal with it? It feels like we're all acknowledging it, but how do we start making an improvement around this, do you think?
I think like one of the most important things a lot of people don't know is like we have how you say we're successful, we have lots of followers, like oh everything must be fine because you have money or you have followers. It definitely helps certain aspects of life, but if your partner cheats on you, you will still be broken. If you have to split up after being together for 20 years, you will be broken. If someone you love dies, you will be broken. Success is not the answer for this. Money is not the answer for this. This does not create emotional happiness. So what's a problem right now within our society is that a lot of people are living it up and making people think that that's all you need and then you'll be fine. And that makes people like work so hard, like, I don't know what the word is, like tremendously hard to try and reach that point, and they think then all their troubles will be solved. So they will always be looking outside of themselves, and then by the time you're 30, 40, at one point, you're gonna figure out like, it's actually inside myself. So I've been fooled for half my life. I was very lucky to figure this out when I was 15, and that's when I was able to really start saying, okay, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna try to be comfortable with myself. I wanna get to know myself. I wanna learn who am I, what do I wanna do, and I wanna be okay with that. I wanna be proud of that. But we need to say this to people. Like we need to put it on Instagram, not just a quote. We need to tell them like, yo, you can still have a bad day. And it's also like the pressure is also on us. Like you're not allowed to have a bad day. You're very lucky because you have all the success. I know we're very lucky because we have all the success. But we can still be sad if someone close to us leaves us, always. And I think it's so important for people to understand that we are all humans. We all have emotions. We're like 99.9% exactly the same. So if we can start from that base and we can have that conversation and try to implement the culture in that conversation, I hope we can change something.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, like, you're really great at articulating and presenting yourself. You know, but
it's the books. It's the books.
I was going to say, like, you know, what tips do you have that, you know, for others to be also able to speak up? Because as you're saying on social media, it's so easy to create this other persona of yourself that always presents happy. And there is a bit of pressure on all of us to always look smiley and energetic and give people energy all the time. But yeah, what are the tips, would you say, from all of you for people to feel confident to speak up and talk?
I mean, you know, what Nick was describing, for me, it was the same in the sense that my journey started with a lot of reading, and just because there wasn't information out there, or I didn't feel comfortable and going to like coaches or therapists or whatever, and do I really need that, or do I feel comfortable? So I started out for years mainly just reading, and then it turns out it's actually called bibliotherapy, which I didn't know. But so just, there are certain things that we can do for ourselves at the individual level to educate ourselves. The internet is a tremendous resource. There's a lot out there that's not helpful, like, you know, sort of fake, you know, everything is great, or just inspirational quotes. But there's also really solid resources out there. And
scientific.
yeah, scientific. So always look for, you know, research or science-based kind of content. I started out at the beginning not really knowing about that. So there's this whole new age movement. I read a lot of those books and was influenced by a lot of that. And then as I started applying that, I kind of reached certain points where I was like, hold up, that doesn't make sense, you know? Things like, you know, if you think positively, you know, or then it's going to happen, or manifesting and visualizing, like there are elements of that where that's true, you know? How I show up into a conversation or into a room impacts how others then respond to me. But it's not like, you know, you think happy thoughts and then everything is going to be okay. There are people going through tremendous difficulty in their lives, and that's oversimplifying things. So there's a danger of that type of content, but there's also a lot of stuff out there that's really valuable. And so at the individual level, we're able to take that initiative, if you think it'll benefit you, if you're interested, to read up on that. Since the pandemic especially, there's also just a lot more normalization around, accessing coaches and therapists. There's 1,000,001 apps on mindfulness and meditation. There's more of those every day. And so those are just some of the things within our reach as individuals that we can do. But then it does take more than that. As a community, as an industry, what else can we do? And speaking about it and not feeling alone, I think is incredible. Like just this panel is moving the needle a little bit to normalize the conversation. Because just knowing that you're not the only one going through something sometimes is enough to make you feel okay, and sort of take the next step, perhaps. Thank you.
I definitely agree, but I also want to add that we're all human, and we're all, just like what Nick was saying, we're all pretty much the same. We all feel happy, we all feel sad, we all have good days, we all have bad days. One day you wake up, your coffee spills on you, and then you get into an accident, and then you're like, oh my God, this is the day's just gonna get worse. And it happens, I personally like to always look at every situation in a way where it's gonna make me feel better by just thinking, how can this be worse? Anything that happens, I'm always like, you know what? I'm thankful it could have been worse. I could have had my daughter with me in the car could have flipped, I could have not even made it out alive. Whatever it may be, the situation can be worse. So I think it's very true, we all have our bad days, we are all gonna have negative feelings and negative thoughts, but it doesn't mean that one is like, it's normal to feel this way and I need to feel this way for so long. No, you want to try to get yourself out of it. So one of the best ways I feel to do that is to try to find something that adds value. Surround yourself with those who add value. Surround yourself, maybe the group you're in or the circle you're in is not the right one, and that's what's actually bringing you down. Sometimes people are just trying to feed off of you, but we're only human, we have to feed off as well, And given the field that I think each and every one of us is in, a lot of times, just like what you were saying, I'm having a really bad day, but the moment I walk into my class and I'm gonna give a class, I have to switch that up. I'm not gonna go in there and be like, guys, I'm having a bad day, so you guys better not stop or else you're doing 500 more push-ups. No, I go in there and I'm like, I need to give my best energy. Just like how I'm sure it is with you guys. When you guys get up there and perform, no matter what it is, you're there, you're gonna perform. So you end up leaving feeling better. Even if I didn't talk about it, even if I felt just a little bit better, I did something I loved and I made the people around me feel good. So I think it's important to acknowledge what you feel, no matter what it is, but figure a way out to make yourself feel better. Whether it's through a person, whether it's through writing, whether it's through listening to something, maybe it's a drive, maybe it's the beach, maybe it's the sand, whatever it is, life is amazing. And there are so many ways for us to appreciate it and to make what we can out of it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's it.
Also, I think it's just important to share. When something works for you in your life, especially like for me during COVID, I really went deep into mindfulness, and one of the first things I did was talk to experts that I knew on what works for them, then try it for myself to see if it works for me, and whatever worked for me, I wanted to share it. And whenever I shared it, I learned it twice. So you learn it more. The more you share it, the more you learn the things that work for you. Because that's like, it's like you learn things almost so that you could share it with people. Yeah. Right? That's like what we do as to proliferate our species and grow what we're doing. We learn what works for us and share it. And I think that it doesn't matter what following you have or if it's just IRL. Actually, like that makes more sense for me, even though I do have a following, I do share the things that work for me when it comes to mental health. But you know, with your friends, with the people you love, like the first thing I did in my house during COVID was, you know, I tried the ice bath out, you know, not at my house. And I was like, wow, this thing really energized me. I wanted to understand the science of it. So I talked to a couple scientists that actually did real research on what it does for the brain. Because it's interesting to know what it feels for you. Like, okay, this works for me. Mentally, I feel alive, but I want to know the science behind it. So then I got an ice bath at my house. I got 2 of them, and I was doing them on a daily basis. And I studied that actually for myself. Like, how does it make me work before I go in the studio? So let me try that out a couple of times. And then I read up on heat therapy, on saunas, and then I talked to this woman that she did a ton of research on how it actually does something to the brain where it actually quells depression for a prolonged period of time. And this is worth actually talking about. I don't want to hog it right now, but
No, they're all making notes. Ice bath, hot tub.
all right, this is really interesting. This is really interesting information. So this woman was doing research on heat therapy where they were putting people in head out sauna. So the sauna is like covering the whole body, icing the head because they're pushing the body temperature, your core body temperature up to 102, 103 degrees, where it's actually at risk. It's like a fever-like temperature. So it's incredibly uncomfortable and it's dangerous. So certain people are only allowed in this particular research, and there were people that have severe cases of depression to the point where they tried to commit suicide 4 or 5 or 6 times. And they'd only take the most severe cases of depression in to put them into this study. And then, of course, there's a control study where they would only go to a temperature of like maybe 100, 101, 100 degrees. And then like the real study is if you get to this like high temp. And when they did this, it's like, I don't know how long they were in this temperature for, but when the body went to that level, the people that actually came out of that study did not have a bout of depression for 6 months from one single time, without taking any meds. Because like the meds that they were taking weren't working to a point where they would do something desperate. And this kind of research doesn't actually get out to the world because there's no big pharma attached to it where you can actually do a heat pill. You know, the only companies that would actually profit from it are sauna companies. So it's not like a sauna company's like, yo, we're gonna put money in this. Like this is where like I have a brain foundation. So I have a charity foundation where we raise money for all things brain and longevity. So we funded her, and we to get this. It's called hyperthermic research, like hyperthermia, and it's just incredible to get this kind of information. And when you find out about this, the first thing I want to do is I want to share it. I'm like, I got a sauna. I have 2 saunas. I gave one to my mom because I was like, Mom, you have to do this 4 to 7 times a week because it shows that if you do a sauna at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time, 4 to 7 times a week, you reduce all-cause mortality up to 50%. We're not talking about just mental health. We're talking about heart disease, digestive diseases that can create cancer in your body. We're talking about everything that can kill you up to 50% if you sit in a sauna, create heat shock proteins that cut through the plaques in your arteries, cut through the plaques in your brain that create degenerative brain diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, all of the above, which is crazy. At age 75 and up, you have a 50% chance of having some sort of dementia. That is wild statistics. If you could reduce that by doing certain methods like sitting in a sauna, sitting in an ice bath, these kinds of things, like this kind of information, if we actually had this kind of information, we would actually start taking care of our elderly, taking care of ourselves so that the people that we love are not plagued with something that will kill them. Imagine preventing that to someone that you love, that you're like if you had the information, you'd be like, all right, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, yourselves, your brothers or sisters, I've learned this. Let's protect our brains. Let's protect ourselves by just being preventative on the process. But
Thank you.
Steve, you were saying 7 days a week? 7 days?
well, I mean, 4 to 7 times a week, you're reducing, like all-cause mortality because it's doing all kinds of, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just.
I'm quoting you on this. Full body?
If you get like dizzy, like get out. You know what I mean? Like I sit there. I'm like a sumo wrestler in there. I'm like, I'm sitting there, and like I played chess in a sauna. Just don't do that. Please don't do that. I do all kinds of weird shit like this. But
Have you DJ'd yet in the sauna?
oh my God, no. I mean, I'm sure me and Afrojack have sweated our faces off. I always say I'm the sweatiest DJ on the planet because I go hard and I sweat like a beast. Like every time Afrojack hugs me, Afrojack's like, "What?" He's like, "It's like I'm all wet." I'm sorry,
Like
bro.
the shirts are like to here. No, but I did wanna hook into something Steve said. So everything he says is like it's true. It's scientifically proven. They tested on so many people. It's statistics, which is great for our physical health as a human, humans. So now we're all here together in this community talking about it. The moment we're gonna step out, you're gonna go to your friend and he's like, yeah, was at this talk with the Afrojack, Steve Aoki talking about some heat stuff. What the hell are you talking about, man? Go back to work. So what he said before about sharing, this implementation of sharing is so important, else it will not realize a position within your life. So if you do not have the community out there, you have to do one very simple, very difficult thing. You're gonna feel like you look stupid, might look stupid sometimes, but you have to talk to people and you have to try. I had to do the same thing. And I had to, it was funny for me because I did it while I was successful. People sometimes look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, no, it's okay, I'm just, whatever. I go to the next guy, I try it. So my tour manager, Sam, he's sitting there. I read all these books, I sent him these books. I sent books to like 10 people. 10 people told me, are you an idiot? You're 34 years old, why are you reading books? You're not a kid. I'm like, yeah, you're right, man, you're right. Next. 10 people shut me down. He accepted, he started reading books. He changed his life. But we had this back and forth thing where if I tried something and it worked, I could share it, it made me happy. If I had a problem, I could share it. He could say, no, that's not how you deal with the problem. Remember, you told me. So you need this back and forth in your life. If you don't have it, which most of us don't have, you have to try and find it. And that's the most important thing about what she said before. There's so many resources available of knowledge of what to do. But just going out with the knowledge will not change your life. You need to implement it. And implementing means experience, means risking looking stupid. But I tell you honestly, the way I look at it, I live one life. There's so much to do. Why would I not do it? Because of the risk of looking stupid for people? I don't know. I really don't care. So try to remember that. And if you don't have the community out there, try to create the community out here. And if they don't get you, you're not losing anything because you're not on the same level anyway. So you can find someone else who is on the same level.
Yeah.
Easy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to add to that. It's not a coincidence that we're all here today. It's meant to be, And every person here today is here to take all of this, do something about it, and spread it. And that's how, it's just like COVID, as you take it from one person to another, and that's how you spread that positivity, and that's how...
Some get it and some don't.
I feel like everyone in here is some sort of media. Who's like media? Are you guys all media or? Yeah? But that's what your job is. It's to share, right? You get information and you put it out there.
Yeah, it's our job too.
Yeah, I know. It's not everybody, but at the end of the day, I actually get better retention of information in IRL. If you were to tell me something yo, I just read this, versus me going and seeing it on social media.
Maybe we should start like a book club, and just like share this
This is
information
IRL,
in a
so
WhatsApp group or whatever. We have different
feel
WhatsApp
like,
groups.
I feel like this is way more better retention of what we're saying and having this conversation than if someone's watching, because obviously it's being recorded. Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic though. If you were to like do a study on that.
Yeah, I think, but the world is open to it, right? Because you have all these TED Talks, you have all these forums that go online, people talk about it. You have like, what's the guy's name? Steve Rogan? You were on a show, right? Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Yeah.
Steve Rogan, Joe Rogan.
Joe, I learned a lot. I mean, there's obviously, with everyone you learn from that's out there, you're not going to agree with them 100%. That's just like, you don't go into things to agree. You're going to like learn, discern, and see if this makes sense for your lifestyle, your world. And that's, and I think the most important thing is just keep an open mind. You know, there might be things that are completely foreign to, or like actually like not in your wheelhouse, that if you just keep your mind open and see if this is applicable to your life in any little facet, then you just have more joy of experiencing something new anyways.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, there's mental wellness, there's health wellness, there's so many elements of it, and it feels like it needs to be a daily thing. You look at the water that you drink, the food that you eat. It's not just the books, it's all of those things. And sharing is really important. If I discover something about food and I share it with my friend and they benefit. So yeah, how do you go about, when you're touring, keeping your diets good, you sleeping late, like how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle?
Can I start? Because I'm a weird out, and this guy is like on top of the regimen of staying healthy on tour. So I have an interesting theory. I think it's interesting. We all know we have a subconscious and a conscious. Your subconscious basically controls you. It tells you when you want to go to the bathroom, when you're hungry, when you feel like you need a shower, when you feel in love, when you feel sad. It tells you what to do. So what I learned is you cannot control your subconscious, but you can guide it. So when I started implementing these changes, initially, I had to really force my subconscious, like, no, bro, it's okay. We're going to try this. And now it's just like it adapted. So you might not be able to control your subconscious right now, but by slowly guiding it and playing around with it, you can at one point create a new version of yourself, basically. So that's like the way I did it. But I know the way this guy does it.
Okay, all right. So I think it's important to note that everything that everyone else does doesn't mean it fits you. That's like so important, because our makeup of our body is. Some people are allergic to this. Some people like have too much of this. It's like you need to find out your body, right? And for me, that's important. I get like blood work done constantly. I think it's important to understand the makeup of your body, and then you go from there. And so what I've done in general is I love like just guinea pigging myself, seeing things that work. I luckily have gotten like access to certain scientists and researchers and people that have done stuff that work for them. And I'm like, well, of course, I'm going to try it. If it works for me, I'm going to work it out. But I want to see the science behind it. I'm not going to base it on how I feel, because that's also placebo. Like, oh, this makes me feel good. Well, let's really understand it. So I think it's important. One thing I always say, just understand your body. I get blood work done, so I understand what my levels are. I'm deficient in this area. Okay, we'll take the vitamins or whatever to make yourself whole there, and then just constantly road test what works for you. I mean, it's clear for me, like there's certain things that we have in our world that are constantly plentiful. Alcohol, drugs, all that stuff we're basically like little babies getting thrown out, and then we have like babysitters that take care of us, and like whatever you want, you can have. So I think it's important for me, I care about long game, I care about stamina, and I want to live a long time, and I'm dealing with occupational hazards like sound, the fact that I have tinnitus in my ear. It's constantly ringing. I can only control it getting worse. But there's certain things I can control, which is food intake, what I take. I don't drink, you know, I don't do drugs. There's certain things I'm like, I think it's also important. The way I train myself is I train myself like an athlete trains itself, him or herself, in competitions. I'm touring 200 shows a year for 15 years straight. I've never dropped below 200 shows. I am an athlete. This is what I do. This is my life. I love what I do. I want to continue it for as long as possible. So I need to train my mind in that way. What do athletes not do when they're training? They don't drink. They don't do drugs. They don't do certain things because you have to sacrifice certain things because you want to be 100% at your performance. You know, and I'm not saying people that drink are not going to perform well. I used to drink, you know, and go hard, but like it didn't work for me. And I'm not saying I'm not like completely abstaining from alcohol. Like sometimes I do drink, but it's not like before a show, I'm focused. I want my crowd to see the best performance they can all the time. And I think it's important. Mindset is so important. You start from your mind, you start from understanding your body, the science in your body, and hack little things that work, get the information in. And there's so much misinformation out there. I can't say this enough. Just what's going on with like the vaccinations, like people, anti-vaxxers, like whatever's out there, it's crazy. The people, like the QAnoners, I don't want to get into it, but like the people are believing in some crazy shit that's just like, it's like doesn't make sense in the science. It's like, I can't have that conversation with that. I want to have a conversation with what's like scientifically going to work, which what we've been talking about.
Can I add something? We've been talking about everything that we do while we're awake, but I don't feel like people appreciate sleep as much as they should. Sleep is so important and is one of the reasons that a lot of people do experience, you know, like depression or just feeling tired and exhausted and down. And it's all like a buildup, you know, like one day you didn't sleep well, you're so edgy, you don't know like when to eat, you feel hungry, you're in such a bad mood, you end up like ruining some relationships or like saying wrong things. You end up losing people maybe, and then it just adds on and on and on and on, and then you become depressed, you know? So sleep is so important, and it's so simple, and it's so amazing. Like, how good is sleep? And the thing is, we appreciate it more, I think, when our alarm sets on and we're like, oh my God, I want to sleep. But that's the feeling, and that's what I always tell my daughter, who's actually sleeping right now.
She's
I always tell her, whenever she's like, I can't sleep, I'm like, think about how you feel when you wake up for school in the morning and you really want to sleep. Think about that feeling. Go to sleep, you know? So sleep is so important. And it doesn't have to be like what some people say. Like, I know there's the 4-hour sleep book. I don't know if anyone has read that. Apparently, like, sleeping for 4 hours is incredible. It's what your body needs. You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Some people say it works for them. I personally don't feel like it works for me. So just like what Steve was saying, not everything works for everyone. You know, it depends on your lifestyle. What kind of routine do you have? But it's so important to sleep. And it's cheap. It's for free. It's nothing. You can do it anywhere. So I just wanted to add that. That's very important.
It's a really great point.
I would like to add on that on top too, because of course we tour, and that's one of the jokes I did with Sam. And now every time I see him when I arrive in any hotel, the first question I ask is, how did you sleep? Not because, how did you sleep? No, because I know that if he slept bad, he's gonna say the most stupid things I ever heard him say. It's like, you know, I've been thinking about this and I don't know about touring, man. I don't like it, it's difficult. Like someone at the plane was complaining, blah, 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 blah. He sleeps next day. Hey man, how are you? He's chill. When he slept, but I have the same thing. I used to be super edgy if I didn't sleep. When I did sleep, I'd be great. When I found that out, I noticed like if I sleep short, stay away from people. Take it easy, take extra patience, and tell your friends you didn't sleep good, so take anything I say with a grain of salt, because there's a risk, you know? So be honest. Again, the sharing thing is very important. And knowledge. Again, if you don't know about this sleep, you don't know why you're saying bad things. Once you know about it, like, try to educate yourself. And everything we spoke about, if you Google it, you will find the articles.
Yeah,
I think.
And we will be going to Q&A shortly, so I just wanted to ask Nadia if you had a final point to add before we...
I mean, in terms of the sleep, I actually have, I wanted to ask a question because for the music industry specifically, I mean, yes, sleep is hugely important for every aspect of your health. You're irritable, even it impairs your decision making, if you haven't slept well, especially if it's like a chronic thing over time where you're not sleeping well. But in this particular industry, specifically for artists like yourselves, where you're flying a lot more than the average person, so there's jet lag, the performances are often at night, and so I know the science, but I'm actually, and she shared a lot, but I'm actually very curious to hear, what are some of your life hacks in getting around that?
I'm curious too.
If I may.
I agree with you. The 4-hour thing, I tried it. Actually, I had no choice. I didn't really have a choice because some of these, some of my lifestyle has, like, I just sleep whenever I can. But that's just me, like I don't have a choice sometimes. Like, I am the king of naps, the absolute king. Like, I will sleep upright if need be. Like, I've slept in the most precarious situations you've ever seen. And like, music's pumping and I'm like passed out, like, because my brain doesn't have a choice. It just, I think I've actually gone into dream state in literally 2 breaths. I am not kidding. Like, one time I remember I was playing a show and then my tour manager's like, "You're on in 2 minutes." I'm like, "I just need 1 minute." And I literally went to sleep.
Power nap.
Yeah, 1 minute. I'm like, and I came back and it was way better than an espresso shot. It's so powerful, even the micro nap. But I am a different makeup. I think it's like eating sushi for the first time. People don't get it, and then like the 10th time they get it. I've like trained my brain to be in a situation where and yes, sleep is so important. Unfortunately, I have a tattoo that says I'll sleep when I'm dead. So maybe that has something to do with my sleeping issues. But I'm still working on it. But I do agree. Actually, before I flew here, I slept like a rock on the plane because I landed this morning. So I just was like, every time I just follow my brain, I'm like, whoa, I'm getting kind of tired. I'm like, I gotta go. And then I just like, I could, you give me a chair, I'll sleep.
So I've like, the thing is, like, I have sort of the same thing, but there is no scientific evidence of people that fly like us. It's never been checked. It's almost impossible to check because the people that fly like us are usually so successful, they don't call a psychologist who said like, "Hey, would you like to run some tests?" Which would be interesting, but I think the human body adapts because when I started flying, there would be jet lag from the time zone difference. Now I do not have any time zone difference problems ever. I just sleep. When I'm tired, I go to sleep. When I have to work, I work. And I try not to play video games before bed because that will really shorten my sleep. But I think the main thing to understand is, like, we all know the human body adapts. And after, just like Steve, flying all over the world all the time, doing these shows, having these time zone differences, my body is completely okay with it. The only thing I have to do is get enough sleep. Doesn't matter if it's day, doesn't matter if it's night, doesn't matter what time zone it is. But jet lag is a very real thing. Like, your body gets so tired from flying. So always take that into account when you go into a business meeting. You think like, oh, I'll do the flight, I'll land, I'll do the business meeting. It does not work. Your body will be completely destroyed when you land. That's the only thing I know about that.
Thank you.